Hi again, everybody, and welcome to this, our third brief lesson on the perfect forms of verb. As promised, today's session we're going to be focusing on the future perfect. It will be building on what we've learned already about the past perfect and the present perfect, and now we're on the future perfect. In a very similar structure to the previous sessions, we'll look at what it actually means, what the term actually means. We'll go through a couple of examples together, and then I'll give you a more extended task that you can complete at home. And then in this session, I'll give you something to actually, a piece of work to carry out at home over the course of the week to kind of consolidate everything we've learned in these very basic, simple lessons about the perfect forms of verbs. So let's go. I introduced this last lesson, and again, just to remember that time is a spectrum. Okay, and we have the past, and the present, and the future. Now we've looked to the present and we've looked to the past. We've looked at the idea that the perfect form of a verb, it connects an event from the past or the future with another point in time. And that's the whole concept of the perfect form. And again, as we've looked at the past perfect, which would be I had arrived at my destination earlier that day. And the present perfect, I have arrived at my destination. And now today we're going to be looking at the future perfect. So the future perfect is something that will happen in the future. It hasn't happened yet, but it will happen. So we use the future perfect using the auxiliary verb will and the perfected past participle of the verb. So simple, again, it's a similar process for each form. So we'll go into our first example. So the future perfect describes something to be completed by some time in the future. So it will be completed or will have been completed. Okay, so if we look again, instead of we're looking now at the auxiliary verb will have, it will happen in the future. So you'll put that in front of the past participle of the main verb. Again, this is a very basic use, and we'll go through some simple uses, and then the task I'll give you later is a bit more challenging, and we'll have thrown in a few plurals and a few questions to see if you can adapt what you're learning now to more complicated examples in the future. So let's go through some examples as usual. I've given you the infinitive, and I would like you to make these sentences into the future perfect. So, Laura swim the channel by them. Soon he collect all the vouchers he needs. They play all their matches by the end of the year. Joe realize he could achieve his goals by then. So again, exactly the same process. Should be very familiar with you should be very familiar with it by now. So we're going to use the auxiliary verb will have in front of the past participle of the main verb. So if you can go now through these 4 examples, if you press pause on me, and we'll go through them again in about 5 minutes. So you pause. And off we go. So Laura will have swum the channel by then. Soon he will have collected all the vouchers he needs. They will have played all their matches by the end of the year, and Joe will have realized he can achieve his goals by then. Again, so we're using will have, and then we're using the past participle of the verb. Easy, right? Again, I do acknowledge that in English, unfortunately, there are lots of irregular verbs, and that's a different lesson for a different day, but there's no easy way around that. You do just have to learn the irregular verbs. Now, I've given you a few more examples which I want you to try again at home. I'll take more time over these because it's not as straightforward as maybe the past few lessons have been, but the concept and the process is exactly the same. Right, so I'm going to ask you to make these sentences into the future perfect. However, I've thrown some difficult ones in there where I've made them into questions. And also, I want you to see there's some negatives and positives in there. Now, hopefully not too complicated, and hopefully you will be able to figure them out using logic and using what we've looked at so far. I'll read them all out to you, same again, then you can pause me, have a go yourselves, and we'll look at the answers. Now, please don't worry if you don't get all of these, because I have made it more complicated with the plurals and making questions. All right, so I'll read them out. You pause me, have a go, and we'll go through the answers. Number 1, I leave by 6. Number 2, will you finish the report by the deadline? Question, think about it. Number 3, when we do everything. Number 4, she finish her exams by then so we can go out for dinner. Number 5, you read the book before the next class. Number 6, she not finish work by 7. Number 7, when you complete the work. Again, this is a question, so have a think. Number 8, they arrive by dinner time. Number 9, we be in London for 3 years next week. Really tricky one there, okay, so have a real good think about it and see if you can have a go. And number 10, she gets home by lunchtime? Question. Okay, so have a think, have a look at them. Remember, what we're doing is you are going to add in will have. This will happen in the future, so you're going to use will have, and you're going to then use the past participle of the words in blue, the verbs which are now in the infinitive. Now, I'll be so impressed if you can get all of these right, but I really would like you to have a go at them. So again, if you hit the pause button on me, have a go and we'll go through. Welcome back. Now, I hope that you had a good go at these, and I really hope that you've had an excellent attempt at it. Let's go through these again. Even though I threw some more tricky problems, the formula and the process is exactly the same. So let's see how you did. We're looking at the future perfect. So, I will have left by 6. This one is a question, so again, a bit more tricky, but if you look at it, it's exactly the same. The bright red is the past participle of the verb, and we have the future auxiliary with will you have. So will you have finished the report by the deadline? Number 3, when will we have done everything? Number 4, she will have finished her exams by then, so we can go out for dinner. Number 5, you will have read the book before the next class. Number 6, negative, again, more tricky, but let's see if you got it. She won't have finished work by 7. Question number 7 is also a question. When will you have completed the work? Question 8, they will have arrived by dinner time. Question 9, we will have been in London for 3 years next week. Question 10, will she have got home by lunchtime? So again, maybe a bit more tricky, maybe not quite as straightforward, but I hope you had a good go and you can see that the formula is the same. Will have, it will be, it's not completed, but it will be completed at some point in the future. And that, for this lesson, is all you need to know about the future present in the simplest form. Hopefully you smashed it. Now, here I'm going to give you a development opportunity. So if you want to try and stretch yourselves even more, in the previous lessons I've asked you to think about when these perfect forms might be used. Now, this one, I would like you, if you choose to accept, to write down what a to-do list. So I want you to think about all of the things you want to have completed by the end of this week and write them down in full sentences. Now, these things do not have to be real. The purpose of this exercise is to practice and consolidate what you've learned over these lessons. So I'll start you off with my example. By the end of this week, I will have completed all of my homework. By the end of today, I will have... Okay, using what you know, and if you need to go back through the videos to remind yourselves, that's absolutely fine. I want you now to try and write your own to-do list of what you hope to have completed, what you will have completed by the end of this week. Good luck. And thank you again for all of your attention over these lessons, and we'll see you again next time.